The problem with skepticism is that it can lead to a lot of extremely absurd conclusions. It's not because someone isn't intelligent enough to be skeptical, but it's because of the thought patterns that begin to build in even the most intelligent person. And this then leads them to rational absurdities that they would have otherwise seen more clearly. I don't think this is really talked about enough, but it is definitely a plague among the population, and I especially see it becoming a larger and larger part of the atheist agnostic culture. They run away from Christianity so hard and become so skeptical that it leads them down this weird rabbit hole that likens them to the same ills of conspiracy theorists, believing, for instance, that the earth is flat, or the QAnon groups, or, we never landed on the moon, or that lizard people really live under the earth. Yes, the last one is indeed a real conspiracy group. I'm Nathan Collins, bringing you the truth of Christ in a post-truth culture. One of those skeptical groups we're going to look at is called the mythicists. These are people who are usually agnostic or atheist, and they believe that everything about the Bible is a myth. Nothing about the Bible can be true. And because of this presupposition, it leads them to believe in very, very terrible lines of logic and awful forms of proof. The example we're going to look at today is the belief that Greek myths or Greek literature informed the Gospel of Mark. And these proofs to the mythicists seem to be completely solid and concrete and absolute. But once you hear them, you're probably going to be shocked. First off, I love the title to this video. It's amazing. The blind spot in academia. Because no one will listen to us because we're so right. It's their blind spot. It's not ours, it's theirs. Conspiracy 101, right? Conspiracy theorist 101. Everyone else is blind to the truth. It's obviously true. Even though no one believes me, it's obviously true.
Now, the three examples I'm going to give you of the clearest examples of mimesis are going to be these. First.
Okay, so he says that these are the clearest examples. Okay, so these should be the best examples, right? This is the guy. This is the guy, Dr. Dennis, on an island by himself, and all these people are listening to him for some reason. And he says these are the clearest examples. So they should be pretty awesome. So prepare to have your minds blown.
Mimesis.
All right, so mimesis is like it's copying, it's mimicking what's gone on in Greek literature, if you're confused about the mimesis thing.
To be these. First, I want to talk about the death of Hector and the death of Jesus. There are so many similarities, and they match the criteria of mimesis criticism, which you apparently are somewhat familiar.
There are so many similarities between how Hector dies and how Jesus dies. Yeah, except not at all. Besides the fact they both die. There is no similarities. One is like a warrior and goes out in a battle fighting and is slain. And Jesus doesn't do any fighting. It's the exact opposite. He's not like a warrior out there at all. So besides that they both died, I don't see what the amazing connection is there.
And that is, Jesus dies alone as a young man, tragically.
He dies alone tragically because that is not a story that happens anywhere else in anything ever written. I know of no other time except with the Iliad and the Odyssey and in Mark's Gospel. Those are the only ones where somebody dies tragically as a young man. Come on.
He thinks his gods have abandoned him, or God has abandoned him, just as Hector realizes that his gods, especially Apollo, have abandoned him.
Okay, one, Jesus does not think that God has abandoned him. Okay, this is a misreading of the passage where he's like, "Why hast thou forsaken me?" Clearly, he is quoting from Psalms. This has already been known for a long time. So that's not even close to being true. Plus, it's completely different, a completely different scenario. Apollo is supposed to help Hector to defeat the Greeks from coming over and taking over Troy, and this is not what happens. Apollo lets him be killed. So these are two completely different scenarios as to what's going on. One has to do with the sacrifice of Jesus to save humanity from their sins. I mean, it's completely different.
3 women watch the death of Jesus.
Okay, so the first part is that Jesus dies, Hector dies. Therefore, Mark copied Homer's Iliad. In what world is that possibly a proof? I mean, that is the lamest proof I've ever heard. There's people who die in like almost every movie. How does that mean anything? There are good guy characters who die all the time. In fact, I could find better correlations between Harry Potter dying and then being raised from the dead, right? That is a greater correlation. So did Mark then steal from Harry Potter? I mean, this is obviously crazy types of logic going on. This is horrible proof. Horrible. How are so many people believing this? I mean, this channel, Myth Vision's like 50, close to 50,000 subscribers, and it's been growing really fast. And this is one of many mythicist groups. It's unbelievable. And everybody thinks this is like gold.
Death of Jesus, according to Mark, from a distance. And you have 3 women who mourn Hector in the Iliad, Andromache, Helen, and Hecuba. You also have the rescue of a corpse by Priam.
This next proof is that there's 3 women who mourn Hector's death, and that there's 3 women in the Gospel of Mark that mourn Jesus' death. I mean, what kind of... There's more to Mark than 3 women mourning. I mean, you can find correlations with anything. Anything. It does not show at all that this came from that, okay? There's a famous phrase, which how this guy, he's a professor, how he does not know this. This is a famous thing, right? You guys probably know what I'm going to say. Correlation does not equal causation. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows this. That's why it's a famous phrase everybody quotes all the time. Correlation does not equal causation. You have to show us how it happened. What are the lines there that lead to Mark copying this? It's got to be more solid than, hey, there's a bird in Mark and there's a bird in this other story, therefore Mark copied. I mean, that's terrible. Again, these are supposed to be the clearest forms of proof. The clearest.
The difference is obvious, that Hector's body stays in the tomb and Jesus' rises from the dead.
Right, a guy takes Hector's body and buries it. How is that, one, unusual in like every story that's ever existed? And 2, How is that like a grandiose proof? Why would Mark even care? Like, hey guys, here is the 3 biggest things I'm going to copy. I'm going to copy that a young guy died tragically. Okay? Whoa, that's crazy unique. There's going to be 3 women in it who mourn his death. I loved that part. I loved it when Homer wrote that. And also, there's going to be a guy who comes and buries the body. Whoa. Fantastic. If I'm going to copy something from another book, it's going to be those 3 things because they're so powerful. I mean, this is so lame. This is so unbelievably lame. It's the craziest part of this is how many people are sucked into this and think this is the greatest thing. That this guy is just like dropping mind-blowing bombs of knowledge on him. Like, whoa, I'd never thought about that before. Of course, they copied from Greek mythology. Why doesn't anybody believe me? He goes on in this thing to talk about why nobody believes him. Brother, what are you talking about? Of course, nobody believes this. This is terrible. This is like kindergarten logic. No one is going to buy this. Oh my goodness. What a sad, sad story.
No one has satisfactorily answered given an alternative understanding of those narrative parallels.
No one, oh my goodness. He ends this with saying, no one has given a satisfactory response to this, given his evidence. You can't even call this evidence. Okay, is it nobody? I mean, this is like conspiracy theorist 101. This is what they always do. Like, no matter how much evidence you give them, they act as if nothing was ever given. Like, no, that doesn't count. Nope, that response doesn't count. Well, you're not taking my theories seriously because they're not even a theory. I mean, you have to show something more substantial than, hey, there's the color red in this story, the color red is in this story, therefore they borrowed from each other. You would have to show way more than just that. That is a random correlation. It's not that people haven't given awesome responses, but I mean, there's not much to give. It's not even really a theory. It is crazy. It is crazy. Now, it's like, okay, there's professors like this out there. Gotcha. But why so many people are flocking to these guys? I don't know if it's the allure that they have like secret knowledge or whatever, but it's like a crazy phenomenon that is going on. It's crazy. Listen, as Christians, we need to be focused on the truth. We need to not just find stuff that fits what we already want to believe. We need to be people who are rigorous in our standard of truth. And we need to be going out there and giving these people truth. We need to be going out there and debunking this stuff. Because there are just tons of people, they go and look up these topics and there's only one voice that's saying anything about this and a whole host of other things. And it's this mythicist group. And people get sucked down the rabbit hole and think this is all legit. And it's usually people who are in like a critical point in their faith where like they must have, I don't know, they found out something that they always believed wasn't true or something like that. And maybe it is true, but they haven't found the other resources to go to. But anyways, whatever that is, they hit this critical point, then they see one of these videos and they go down the rabbit hole. And it just leads them to a crazy, crazy place. And it's ironic because they think that they are the most objective in what's going on. And it's definitely not the case. Well, that's all for this episode. I'd like to say thank you to my Patreon supporters. We are blessed to have you, and you keep the lights on here. Thank you. If you're new to this channel and you like this episode, go ahead and subscribe and visit our page on Facebook and check out our other episodes as we address different issues in our world and bring you the truth of Christ in a post-truth culture.